As Kong notices this, he hurls a bomb, causing numerous cars to explode. When the police surround Kong, he begins to flee, but Bong follows him and shoots at him until he eventually captures him in a church. The movie begins with Chung Sung Bong, a police inspector of the Regional Crime Unit, in bed with his wife, Anna Lam, who is pregnant with their first child, and remembering the violent death of his best friend. Later that day, Bong arrives at the police station and meets with other officers to discuss the operation to capture Wong Kwun, a drug dealer about to conduct drug deals with the Vietnamese mafia. During the meeting, they learned that Wong had been a police target for some years. Soon after they ended the discussion, Bong received a call from one of his team members, Bo Yuan, who requested that Bong meets with him because he had urgent matters to discuss. Bong is presented to police officers, a wealthy businessman, and his son as he arrives at Bo's house. The billionaire wants Bong to close the case of his son's assault on a police officer. On the other hand, Bong denies this since, according to him, they must follow the law. Gangsters Yao Kong, Chu Chi Kung, Law Kim Hwa, Chao Chi Chun, and Ma Kiek Chuen plan to rob Wong's narcotics the next day. On the other hand, Bong returns to the police station and learns that his superior has ordered him to arrest Wong after he refuses to close the case on the businessman's kid. Meanwhile, Yu Yuk Sing, Bong's friend and Regional Crime Unit superintendent, and all his troops drive to Wong's camp. Bong calls him to inquire about the location of the base. On the other hand, Yu refuses to tell him because it is an order from their superiors. Nevertheless, Bong does not give up and directs one of his team members to locate the site. Yu and his forces, on the other hand, arrive at the base and are ready to check it. The Vietnamese mafia comes simultaneously and is attacked by Kong's squad. Following that, one of Kong's team members switches off all police monitoring while Kong and the others search for Wong. Kong robs him of his drugs and murders him and his soldiers. When the cops start attacking, Kong and his team attack all of them. Simultaneously, Bong and his squad locate Wong's base. Bong is on his way when he notices an explosion in the building where the cops are set to ambush Wong. Meanwhile, Yu appears to be able to stand following the blast. Tragically, he was murdered by Kong's accomplices. Bong and his team arrive at the venue not long after, but they are already late. There, he discovers that Yu died in a horrific state while numerous others were severely injured. On the other hand, Kong gives the drugs he stole to a mobster named Guai, who is irritated with him. Kong leaves after being paid, despite Guai's complaints about what he did. Bong and other police officers attend Yu's burial the following day. There, he appears bemused by his closest friend's murder and plans to reveal the mastermind behind the attack that killed him. On the other hand, Kong trains physically, and he suddenly recalls his history as a police officer with his team. Kong and Bong used to be excellent friends. One day, their employer, Commissioner Shedo, assigns them to rescue a wealthy businessman named Mr. Folk. Bong and Kong separate after obtaining the assignment. So Kong moved first to arrest Wong's colleagues, while Bong was responsible for capturing Wong. Kong was eventually successful in catching Wong's partner. Soon after, he received a call from Shedo, telling him to use all measures necessary to defend him. Then, Kong and his crew mercilessly beat Wong's team while they interrogated them. After some time, Kong discovers Mr. Folk's location. On the other hand, Bong could not apprehend Wong and sought assistance from Kong. Meanwhile, when Kong and his friend are caught off guard, Wong's men bite one of his team members and plan to flee. However, this move prompted Kong and his squad to beat Wong's team to death spontaneously. At the same time, Bong enters and witnesses everything happening. Wong and his crew were eventually charged with breaking the police code of ethics surrounding the arrest of offenders. However, during that trial, Shedo testified against them, as did Mr. Folk, who instead blamed their behavior. Soon after, Bong was called in as the lone eyewitness, and he was forced to testify that he witnessed Kong and his squad beating Wong's team to death. After that, Kong and his crew were officially found guilty and sentenced to prison and dishonorable removal from the police force. Even though one of Kong's team members demands justice till he attempts to commit himself, no one wants to protect them. So Kong vowed vengeance on the police and Wong, who had paid people to torture them in prison for the murder of his partner. Later, Bong and his squad begin narcotics raids at multiple nightclubs while looking for information on who sells Wong's drugs. Thankfully, they didn't have to wait long to acquire information from a drug dealer who admitted to buying the drugs from Guai. Following that, Bong and his team meet to examine Guai, who they discover is a former felon who lives in a violent neighborhood where the inhabitants are willing to die to defend him. Bong asks the crew to return to their residence late at night because they cannot catch Guai then. But Bong is determined to go to Guai's headquarters alone to arrest him. Soon later, A battle breaks out when Bong pushes one of the inhabitants to reveal Guai's location, and he eventually encounters Guai. He asks Guai where he obtained the drugs without more ado, but Guai appears relaxed and instead gives him some money from selling the drugs, thinking he can bribe him. Nevertheless, Bong throws the money aside in rage. Then another struggle erupts as Bong attempts to take Guai to the police station. Still, he naturally refuses, and the residents, his soldiers, force their way into his house. When the situation begins to favor Guai, Bong's team arrives to assist, knowing that Bong will do so because he does not want to jeopardize his squad. Guai, on the other hand, gets to flee, so Bong runs after him while his crew fights Guai's men. They fight soon after, but Guai can still escape and runs away. When Guai flees along the street, he is attacked by one of Kong's team members and dies instantaneously. Following the incident, high-ranking police officers take advantage of Bong and his team's achievement by claiming they had ordered his men to raid Guai's headquarters. The following day, Kong and his squad go to a cremation for a deceased team to demand justice. At the same time, Bong arrives but is treated poorly because it is their first meeting since the trial of the murder case they committed. While in prison, Bong attempted to meet Kong and his colleagues, but they refused. Kong eventually agrees to speak with Bong alone. Wong died a week ago during a police raid, according to Bong. Still, he was assassinated by a group of people who killed numerous police officers, including you. Kong smiles and encourages Bong after hearing that he claims to have caught the bunch. Later, Chu is having a good time with his girlfriend and treating all of her pals to a bar. He then goes to a hotel room with his girlfriend and gives her Wong's watch, which he stole during the robbery. When his girlfriend goes to the restroom, he unintentionally discovers a message from someone he met and a photo of them in bed. Chu tossed her body into the sea after witnessing this. The cops discover Chu's girlfriend's body and Wong's watch the next day. Because of the watch and CCTV footage of the murder, Bong realizes that the murderers are Kong and his gang, which confirms his suspicions. Meanwhile, Kong and his team are meeting with the mafia to discuss how they can work together to rob Mr. Folk's bank. Bong and his squad, on the other hand, trace down Chu's SIM card and figure out where he is, so they go after him. Later, Chu and Hua realize they are being pursued by the police and flee while reporting the situation to Kong. But Chu is unaware that Bong and his colleagues have tapped his phone, so Bong knows where Kong is and rushes out to get him. Meanwhile, Kong and his two team members learn through Chu that the police are looking for them. As a result, they exit the conference chamber in two groups. On the other hand, Chu and Hua broke off to outwit the cops, but Hua picked the wrong road and was apprehended instead. Meanwhile, Bong arrives where Kong is, but Kong, who means to flee, is aware of his presence and picks another route, particularly the building's parking lot. Then he grabs a motorcycle. So, Bong leaps from the second level of the building's parking lot and lands on top of a car, causing the owner to halt. Next, showing his police license, he asks the owner for permission to borrow his vehicle and begins after Kong. On the other hand, Chu appears desperate as he drives his car into a traffic jam, almost being apprehended by the police who had encircled him. Still, Chan and Chuen arrive to save him and become involved in a gunfight on the street. Kong escapes after a long chase when Bong turns the car around to grab and save a young boy. Police later interview Hua about his involvement in the robbery of Wong's narcotics and the police bloodbath. On the other hand, Hua remains loyal to his team and refuses to confess. Chu is beaten up by Kong and the others till he dies. Because Chu is no longer alive, the authorities have no proof to arrest Kong and his squad. He orders Chun and Chuen to kidnap Shadow at his house after killing Chu. Soon later, they break into Shadow's residence and kidnap him. The next day, Bong and his crew are plotting how to apprehend Kong and his team when they unexpectedly come to the police station, reporting Chu's absence. However, they were held by police for questioning. They managed to avoid all of the investigators' queries, and Kong maintains that his aim at the police station is to report Chu's disappearance. If the police are involved in the event, Kong challenges them to find evidence. He even boasts that he is willing to be imprisoned for 48 hours in the police station for questioning as they search for evidence of his and his team's involvement. The police located Chu after 48 hours, but he was already dead. Thus, the police lost all leads and could not charge Kong and his crew. After receiving the report, Bong goes to Kong's room and destroys all the cameras. Kong responds that he is doing all this to avenge the individuals who imprisoned him and his crew and to avenge Wong's treatment, who had paid people to torture them in prison. Bong becomes enraged after hearing Kong's explanation since his actions went too far in sacrificing innocent police officers, including you. Kong explains that their first goal was only for him. But, because he is not in action, Kong kills the cops. Simultaneously, Bong's crew rushes into the questioning room to inform him that his wife is being held captive by Shadow, who is wearing a balm around his neck. Hearing this, Bong believes Kong is playing with him and plans to return to him and Seto simultaneously. Bong punches Kong, storms out of the interrogation room, and goes to save his wife. The cops were forced to release Kong and his team a few moments later. Bong later comes to his wife's house. He notices the bomb wrapped around Z's neck, directly linked to his pulse. Thus the only option for Bong to save his wife is to assassinate Seto without catching him off guard. But Bong's situation becomes complicated when Seto shackles his wife's hands. Following that, Kong compels Seto to admit to Bong that he was the one who persuaded him to do everything he could to find Mr. Folk and vowed to protect him, but he betrayed his pledge. After that, Kong starts counting down the seconds till the bomb explodes, which causes Bong to panic and open fire on the cops, who are going to evacuate him and leave his wife. A police sniper, on the other side, kills Seto, rendering the explosive inactive. Kong, on the other hand, reactivates it and instructs Chun to press the explosion button. As a result, Bong shoots the guy and flees with his wife. The bomb then goes off. Doctors at the hospital later announce Bong's future child has been saved. At the same time, the Central Police arrive and arrest Bong for firing at the cops. In other news, Kong and his team run across the Mafia again. On the other hand, the Mafia has stated that he is no longer interested in dealing with Kong. When he hears this, Kong is disappointed, so they kill the mobster and his men. But, before killing the Mafia, Kong switches the flash drive carrying BPA Bank security data with Mr. Folk's bank to fool the police into moving to BPA Bank, allowing him to plunder Mr. Folk's bank freely. Bong, on the other hand, faces a police trial as a result of his conduct, but his entire squad unexpectedly defends him. But he asks his team to wait outside and begins justifying himself by recounting all his sacrifices for the police. He claims that the difficulties resulted from Kong's vengeance and that if he got imprisoned, he would never be able to catch and stop Kong. So he begs the court to set him free so that he can catch him. Thankfully, court officials authorized him 24 hours to arrest Kong and instructed him to return to the police court after that time. Soon after, Bong and his team arrive at the dead Mafia's headquarters. Then a member of his squad arrives to inform that Mr. Folk's body has been discovered in the body of a bank security guard. He stated that Mr. Folk had returned from America and that his bank was having a shareholder meeting. Bong realizes Kong wants revenge on Mr. Folk after hearing this. Bong then visits Ma, the BPA Bank's arrest operations top police officer, to inform him about Kong's trick. But Ma says he trusts his team's evidence more than his words. So he dismisses and orders him and his staff to proceed to Mr. Folk's bank alone. On the other hand, Kong begins impersonating a bank clerk and entering Mr. Folk's bank. When Mr. Folk approaches a chamber in the bank, Kong and his team attack him and compel him to open the safe containing the money. Soon after, Mr. Folk's gang places all the money in the safe in their bag, while Kong kills Mr. Folk in retaliation. After that, Kong and his gang flee the bank. They run into Bong, who turns around to chase them. Soon later, they have a gunfight with Bong. While shooting at Bong and his squad, Kong and his men sat down and prepared to flee. Not long after, the police from Bank BPA arrived to assist after finding Kong had dumped them. As Kong notices this, he hurls a bomb, causing numerous cars to explode. When the police surround Kong, he begins to flee, but Bong follows him and shoots at him until he eventually captures him in a church. Bong paralyzes Kong by breaking his arm after a heated battle. Simultaneously, the police encircle the area and target Kong. Bong begins to walk away, abandoning Kong because he is dissatisfied with what Kong has done. The movie ends with the police pointing their rifles at Kong, and he realizes that he lost, so he laughs before accepting his death. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this to help the channel out. Have a nice day.